What up, my good people? Just sitting here enjoying me a cup of this here thing called Java. What's going on? I haven't done any videos lately because I've been watching. I pulled up just recently, well, a few moments ago, the latest, the final, I guess, the latest order with regard to this EBT SNAP thing. Now, I haven't done any videos about it because, you know, my mother was a welfare mom. She depended on food stamps and stuff like that, but she was also a single woman struggling with 3 biracial children at a time when, employment, they kind of frowned on white folks that had black kids. So to speak. So she depended on them. So I'm a little bit ambivalent about the whole situation. I do know that it's sad that neither one of these parties, the Republican Party nor the Democratic Party, had enough damn common sense to just stand up and say, despite our indifferences, despite the fact that we are so stubborn as two different political parties, we at least got to feed our damn children. Neither party did that. It took a federal judge to make things happen.
Trump administration must make food stamp payments within days, judge says. This article is by Tony Rahm and read by an automated voice. One day after ordering the Trump administration to continue funding food stamps during the shutdown, a federal court gave the government a choice. It can either make full payments by Monday or partial payments by Wednesday to spare low-income Americans from hardship.
That's crazy. And with regard to what I'm saying now with regard to this federal judge, 19 hours ago, the Trump administration must make food stamp payments within days, a judge says. The written order came one day after a court told the Trump administration it must pay benefits in the program known as SNAP during the shutdown. However, one day after ordering the Trump administration to continue funding food stamps during the shutdown, a federal court gave the government a choice. It can either make full payments by Monday or partial payments by Wednesday to spare low-income Americans from hardship. That was posted 19 hours ago. So that's the bottom line. Now, mind you, I understand there are a lot of people out there that do abuse the program, and some of them, made idiots of themselves on social platforms, bragging about what they can buy and what they can't buy with food stamps. The ones that cried about being shut off of food stamps that didn't need to be on food stamps in the first place because they all seemed able-bodied to me. It was the children, the elderly, and the handicapped that was bothering me. And I can't believe this government didn't stand up and take care of its own citizens. It'd take care of other countries, but it wouldn't stand up long enough to feed America's children. And that says a whole lot about the people that we have in that damn office, period. And I think it's, I remember a time when my grandmother and my mother got into an argument about my mother being on food stamps. My mother was in the kitchen. She was going through her purse. My grandmother happened to turn around and ask her what she was doing. My mother said she was pulling out her food stamps to make sure she had enough to go shopping. This is back then when food stamps came in a book. They looked like dollar bills. They came in books of 1, 5s, 10s, and 20s, and rarely would you see a $50 book, but you would see them. And my grandmother asked my mother, "What are you going to do when that runs out?" My mother, naive as can be, said, "Oh no, the government wouldn't do that to us." My grandmother said, "Yeah, all right, well, I think they would, and eventually it's going to run out." My mother said, no, a little, spat came to came the spark, and my mother walked out. My grandmother, me sitting there, witnessing this whole thing. I can't remember how old I was, maybe 14, 15. I asked my grandmother, was she all right? My grandmom said yes. Baby, but do me one small favor. And I said, yeah, what's that, Gran? She said, promise me that you will never, ever, ever depend upon someone else to feed you. Because when you do, you also give them the power to starve you. I didn't really understand what she meant until all this EBT SNAP thing came into play. I think it's time for the American citizens to wake up and to not only start paying more attention to the morals and ethics of the very people we put into those offices, but I also think it's time for us to take back a little bit of our independence. We've surrendered too much of it to a government body that was so heartless that they couldn't even feed the children of this country. It took a judge to step in, a mediator. Who the... Yeah, I think it's time for us to take back some of our independence. And I think eventually we're all going to have to. I remember a time whenever I was growing up. I grew up in a little steel city called Steel City, whatever you want to call it, Steel Mill City, called Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, right on the river banks of Beaver County. And I remember growing up, people had trees, fruit trees. In my grandmother's backyard, there was a peach tree and a pear tree. In the neighbor's yard next to us, there was a grapevine. And in just about every yard you would run through playing tag or something when you was a kid, you would run into somebody's garden or a chicken coop. Like, where did we stop doing that? Like, when was the last time you looked in your neighbor's yard and seen a fruit tree? Or out sitting out in the front yard? When did we stop doing that? When was the last time you seen someone gardening? I remember back in the day, like I said, Beaver Falls is on the banks of a river I played along. Know the whole stretch of that river. And I remember growing up, man, and seeing nothing but, like, there were always garden beds, all over the place, all along that riverbank there were garden beds. Plush garden beds. One garden even had goats. Wasn't nothing to see some chickens down there, It was crazy. Woo, and it was mostly the older people that lived down in the lower part of Beaver Falls. They were like Czechoslovakians, Italians, Polish, some of the older black men and women, and some of the older Jewish people. They grew these gardens, and when they could, when they grew enough to feed their household, they would share it with other people. That was the crazy thing. And if you caught a bunch of fish down there, you would walk through the neighborhood. Someone might ask, hey, go down and get one of those fish. Yeah, sure, you can give it to him. It was just a way. We lost our way. I can't understand. As a baby boomer, I was raised independently. Kicked out the door at like 8 a.m. on the weekends and told, don't you come back in this house until the lights come on. And I knew what she meant. I was out there all day by myself. No worries about being kidnapped. No worries about... And I was taught in independence that it seems the baby boomers failed to hand that off to the next generation. So now I think it's time for the baby boomers that is still alive to stand up and start teaching once more that spirit of independence. You know what I'm talking about, Woodstock, Vietnam. I'm talking about taking back America, that American spirit that seems to be lost in all of us in a spirit of dependence upon the powers that be. It's kind of draining saying that. And it is sad that our government couldn't stand up and feed its own children, but it'll feed another country. Let that sink in. Give that something to think about. Until next time, you know who it be? The babbling baby booming nuisance. Mikey Woo Woo. More power to you. I pray for this nation's children. If we have a government that was that heartless, can you only imagine what they would do to us?